Where's your line when it comes to fantasy? When you're with your partner, but your mind is somewhere else? This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. When you start replaying scenes that don't belong to the moment you're in, or when you're messaging someone else that you shouldn't be, telling yourself it's innocent because it's just talk. These are hidden dangers you're passing off as just fantasy. It's one of the most common ways that men lose control. Do you realize what fantasy is doing to your body? Every time you feed it, whether it's a scroll, a chat, or a mental replay, your dopamine spikes, your testosterone drops, and your drive for real intimacy fades just a little bit more. Today on Explicit Matter Mondays, we're breaking down the effects of porn and fantasy, how imagination replaces intimacy, and why that slow slide is killing your motivation, your masculinity, and your mind. One of my clients told me, I can't stop imagining other women, even when I'm with my fiance. He wasn't watching porn anymore because he had committed to quit, but his mind was still running the same patterns, chasing novelty, chasing control, chasing the chemical high of fantasy. When we dug deeper, he confided in me that he had been chatting with women online, harmless messages, but those small dopamine hits became the new addiction. He didn't want to cheat. He said the fantasy made him feel alive, but that quick fix slowly drained his connection and his testosterone. The neuroscience behind this might blow your mind because it applies to almost anyone who plays out any kind of fantasy. Every time you imagine, scroll, or replay something in your head, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of pursuit and reward. The wild part? Your brain doesn't need real-world experience to get that hit. It can trigger it entirely through imagination. That's what builds what I call the imaginary loop. It feels like control because you can create the perfect scene, the perfect reaction, the perfect outcome. You always win. But that control is an illusion. Every time you feed that loop, you strengthen the brain's habit circuitry, not the emotional and relational circuits that light up during real human connection. So your brain starts to prefer the predictable reward of fantasy over the unpredictable energy of intimacy. The result? Real connection starts to feel slow, dull, even frustrating, because your brain has been conditioned for instant, guaranteed dopamine. And because that loop is so hyper efficient, high dopamine release with minimal effort, your brain begins to desensitize. It downregulates dopamine receptors to protect itself from overstimulation. At the same time, your body's endocrine system, specifically the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, reads the constant false signal as mission accomplished. In other words, no real pursuit means no hormonal signal of achievement. Testosterone production slows down. That's why your energy, confidence, and motivation fade, even though the fantasy still works. You feel in control, but your neurochemistry is collapsing underneath it. You've traded authentic connection for an illusion of mastery, and your brain, your body, and your hormones are all paying the price. I see it all the time. Men who thought they were in control until the fantasy started controlling them. They stopped being present. They stopped initiating. They stopped feeling. So I'll ask you again, where's your line? But if you don't define it, your brain will keep moving it for you. I say it all the time. Control your brain or it'll control you. Fantasy feels safe, even harmless, until it costs you everything real. The kicker? The deeper you go, the harder it is to recognize what exactly is real and what is reinforced by the fantasy loop. In my clinic, I use brain mapping to show men all over the world exactly how this happens. You can see the overactive reward centers, the burnout in the emotional areas, and the prefrontal cortex, that part that's supposed to help you choose, well, it is running low on power. When men see that data, it clicks. This isn't weakness. This is miswiring, and that wiring can be changed. That's where the Dopamine Project comes in. Think of it as habit swapping, trading mindless stimulation for intentional engagement. Instead of short form doom scrolling, choose something that stretches your attention and gives you real interaction. Maybe it's watching a full movie without your phone. Maybe it's playing a video game, but with friends, not alone. I had one client who swapped his nightly scrolling for watching WWE. It gave him the same rush of excitement and story, but with structure and community behind it. The point isn't perfection, it's direction. You're retraining your chemistry to get its dopamine from progress and connection, not isolation and fantasy. You can't rebuild intimacy with fantasy in the driver's seat. You can't grow testosterone while your dopamine's out of control. Inside the Explicit Matter Recovery Program, I use brain mapping, neurofeedback, and hormone-aware retraining to help men reset their drive, rebuild real connection, and get back their clarity and confidence. So if you want to reset today, visit drtrishleigh.com because I am Dr. Trish Leigh and this is Explicit Matter Mondays. I want you to set your line before it's crossed for you. That's why I'm bringing you the real talk and the real neuroscience. I'll see you again next week.